Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today in this video we're going to be going through the changelog for War Thunder Starfighters. Yes, it seems that Gaijin has decided to get rid of the number out of the name, but that's okay, because we'll just keep track of it anyway, since it's update 1.99 Starfighters. Now obviously, the reason why this update is called Starfighters is because there's a ton of F-104s in it, but there's also a bunch of other stuff that is also available, and you can see that, at least when it comes to the ground stuff, it's pretty much exactly the same of what we saw on the dev server, so I feel like I don't need to cover any of that. When it comes to aircraft, it's slightly different though. There are a few extra premiums. So you can see the Reggiani 2001, you got the Spitfire Mark IIA Venture, which we talked about yesterday, and then 3 separate Japanese premiums. Now there are 2 which are actually missing here, which we have actually talked about in one of the data mines. There is the Fleet Air Arm Hurricane, the Mark 1L, and I'm just wondering if that has something to do with its camouflage that it has, because it has a Fleet Air Arm camouflage, but the problem with it is if you actually have a look at how you get it, it doesn't actually tell you. It just says you have to achieve 2 certain achievements, and then when you try and find them, it's very hard to find them, let's just say. So maybe it's something to do with that, or maybe it's just something they're holding back for either an event or either something for the future. The other one is also the Reggiani 2000, that's also missing. So it's nice to see these low tier premiums because they're pretty much carbon copies of the ones in the tech trees, and that to me is what a perfect premium is. It is something which gives a incredibly similar experience, if not the same experience as a vehicle in the tech tree, but gives you a little bit of a premium bonus. So I'm happy to see these ones. I am glad. It would have been nice if there was something to do with the old War Diaries thing coming back, but hey ho, you know, it's just nice to see them anyway. Most of them are around 1000 GE, so they won't put you back so much. And remember, we will have the November sale coming up soon, and also the Christmas sale, where a lot of stuff goes 50% off. Maybe not these ones, since they released this update, but at least at Christmas we'll probably see something like that. The next thing is the helicopters, and the only thing which wasn't on the dev server, which is the UH-1B for the Japanese, and obviously we've talked about this in the past, in the data mines, and then when it comes to the naval stuff, everything is exactly the same. Nothing is really new here. All of this stuff was available on the dev server, so if you want to check out my opinions or what I think of the vehicles, I did some videos in the past on them. And then we have a nice little section, which is always lovely to see, examples of bugs corrected by player reports. Now I'm really happy that stuff like this actually gets shown, because it shows to the community in general that yes, your voice does matter when it comes to bug reporting, and yes, your forum posts do matter. So if you do see something in the game which you believe is a bug, make sure to report it on the forums and it will be fixed. You know, one of the main ways that Gaijin does fix bugs is by the community reporting them, so therefore it should definitely be, you know, it should definitely be seen as a positive thing to do. And you also can get a little bit of G out of it. You can also get a special badge and title and stuff like that, which is always nice on top of the work that individuals do. So the bugs which are corrected, so the sound of the rocket reload on the Begleitpanzer 57, that's been fixed. You've also got a discrepancy in several flight technical specification values of the Key 100 concerning data in the vehicle passport on the forum has been fixed. That's a very specific one. The efficiency of the air brake on the B-18A, B and T-18 have been improved, so hopefully that's a little bit better. I never really use the air brake, if I'm honest with you. I use that thing as a dogfighter mainly, so there's no real use for it. The Carnarvon's armor model in the area of the turret turning mechanism has been fixed. Does this mean that you can't machine gun through it? Because that would be really nice, because that was a real issue, which also plagued the Centurion, but the Centurion plagues it in a little bit of a different place, basically I think where the machine gun is. Incorrect door distance of the ground vehicles when viewing from aircraft in the location of Mozdok Jungle 30th Parallel and Karelia has been fixed. Ooh, so does that mean we're going to have less pop-in, especially from Karelia and 38th Parallel? There was a lot of pop-in on those maps, we'll have to see. There's also the thickness of the armor behind the gun mantler to the 101 has been changed to 139, and that's basically because it's talking about the 7 Mark 10. The armor model of the hatch for the expended C1 Ariete spent cartridges, which didn't generate accompanying fragments upon penetration, has been fixed. Also, an anti-aircraft gun was removed from a runway in Finland. It was in the middle of it, which didn't seem to make a lot of sense. The Nurba for Fahrzeug. So the Nurba for Fahrzeug has got its armor changed from 13 to 20 now on the front. Now obviously this isn't going to make a lot of difference, but it's nice to be historically accurate. Self-destruct parameters, the 28mm shell on the Somas, Porter and also Atlanta. The Trenton have been fixed as well. Fire rates of the Soviet Naval 70K 37mm have been fixed according to the internal documentation. I love it when that phrase is used. Internal documentation. The inclination angle of the IGN tone armored belt has been changed to 20 degrees, so that should give it a little bit more armor. There's also some new locations and missions, of course. We have an updated Campania, and also Kursk has been changed based on players' feedback, and I'm wondering if they're going to keep it as Kursk or if they're going to keep it as its new name, Fire Arc. And I actually got a message from Comrade Vladimir. Now, Comrade Vladimir hangs out a lot on the Twitch channel, just kind of talking about stuff, and it's always nice chatting with him. And he was basically saying, Fire Arc was the name of Kursk, and he was basically saying that it actually might pertain to the Kursk arc, which we actually see from, the battlefield. Now, I'll try and show you it here. Just to try and give you an idea. So maybe this is what it's pertaining to, the bulge in a way, how this would be the arc of what's going on. So yeah, I mean, thank you for the information, Vladimir. That's very kind of you. It's always nice to have some interesting ideas, and I'm guessing that's why it was called that, and yeah, we'll have to see going forward. The next one, in location and mission updates, this is, for me, location and mission updates is much more important than other stuff, such as specific vehicle changes, because this affects every vehicle and every game, because obviously you're going to play much more of the same map than you are the same vehicle. Rock collisions have been fixed on the location Finland. I'll have to see it when I'll believe it when I see it. And also the problem with Finland is you can still shoot through the snow, so therefore you can do some really dodgy shots. The locations Ash River, Carpathians, and Korea. Known camper positions, which are not provided in the location design, have been closed. So my guess is the billy-goating areas, basically, which a lot of people really enjoy, like on top of the hills, basically, which most of the vehicles in the game couldn't get up to anyway, but stuff like top-tier vehicles definitely could with their great power-to-weight ratios. Location Poland, the height of the rocks on the cliff on the western side of the lake has been reduced. This literally didn't really do a lot, at least if it's the same as what we saw on the dev server. Really didn't matter. Changes in air aviation RB missions. They've just removed Smolensk. And then added 2 more. So they've removed some Smolensk, and then you have 1941 Smolensk, and then 1943 Smolensk. So I'm guessing this is the Germans on the offensive, and then the Soviets on the offensive, because obviously the Battle of Smolensk was an ongoing thing during the war, kind of like the battle for either Leningrad or somewhere like that. It wasn't just something which happened straight away, and there was obviously an offense and a defense because of how Operation Barbarossa happened, so it will be nice to play both sides of that conflict. Also, Battle for Baston has been changed. Berlin mission has been reworked completely, and so has Guadalcanal. Battle of El Alamein has been changed, and Hertzgen has also been changed. So pretty much all of those new maps that they added, which were like the ground maps, which they just expanded into air maps, the only one which is kind of or the only 2 that haven't been touched here are the Mozdok and the Normandy map, and please touch them because they are really bad to play. They pretty much are over in 9 minutes if you play it correctly, and it's really rough to actually get anything done on those. But the fact is, They added a bunch of AI to a lot of these AirRB stuff. Basically, a lot of light AI, a lot of medium, and a lot of heavy. This means that there is reasons to play different vehicles, and also, as you'll see, they've changed a bunch of things for specific missions as well. So here we go. Base models for bombing have been base models for bombing have been changed to the correct ones. Their functionality is now similar to enduring confrontation mode. After destruction, bases may respawn randomly in certain positions designed for every mission. So you have unlimited bases. But, in order to add to that, airfields have also been removed from the target list, so they can't be destroyed now. So you cannot end the game by destroying or bombing an airfield. So now bombers will have to go for the strategic bombing points more, and also go for all of the other AI that's around the place. They cannot effectively end the game on these missions in a matter of 5 to 10 minutes, and I'm talking to you, TU4s and B29s, and even the Farman F22222.2, which everybody forgets about, which is a monster at 1.3. The aircraft models and their location towards the center of locations has been standardized. In low-tier battles, they are located 12 kilometers from the location center, mid-tier 20 kilometers, high-tier 26 kilometers, and previously all tiers had airfields located 20 kilometers away from the center, from the location center. So this pretty much means that now we're going to have map sizes based on what level you are at. So if you're at higher tier, the maps or the general spawning positions are going to be further away from each other, so therefore you'll get to the engagement at the same time, whether you're in a lower tier aircraft or a higher tier aircraft. It's basically trying to standardize the engagement time, which I think is fine. It's not going to make too much of a difference because the overall map size is still the same. The size of an airfield now depends on the battle's rank. That makes sense. The mid-tier missions now have stage airfields located 12 kilometers away from the location center. Now, I always liked these staged airfields. You had the one on Berlin. You had the one on some of the Japanese maps, just the airfield which you could go land at, which wasn't the main one. You also had a few on stuff there was one on Hokkaido as well, or one for each side on Hokkaido. I always liked these additions because it meant that if you needed to go and repair, if you needed to go back to the base, the enemy wouldn't the enemy wouldn't know where you were going. They couldn't just guess straight away. So to add more of these options for more maps, I think is really nice. They've also changed a bunch of aviation arcade battles, so Mozdok, Moresby, Ruhr, Sicily, Korsun, Abandoned Factory, Frozen Pass, Mountain Ridge, China, Grave Robbers Cliffs as well. So yeah, these are all the ground strike missions, and what they've done is base models for bombing have been changed to the correct ones, and airfield models have been changed to a new 1700 meters long one. Fair enough. Change list for all above mentioned AB and RB missions. Destruction of player-controlled aircraft now gives victory points. Good stuff. Now they've actually meant that they're putting the balance now. It's more balanced towards if you want to be in a fighter, bomber, or an attacker. AI vehicle counters have been disabled. In fact, previously they duplicated the victory point lines but might not depict the actual required number of vehicles for victory. For example, when bombing zones are destroyed, now the only indicator is the victory point scale. It would have been nice if they kept the other factors in and just refined them a little bit, so we would have more information about what's going on, but if the information was bad, then obviously you wouldn't want it. All AI ground vehicles now affect the victory point scale. The number of AI vehicles has been increased. If you haven't seen like a mission like Ruhr, go out on a test drive or a custom battle and go and have a look around Ruhr. They have covered it in AI. Previously, destruction of light vehicles didn't affect victory points. Players are now free to destroy any targets of their choice, both light and heavy. So everything now matters. So even if you're in a light bomber, and you don't necessarily have the payload to take out stuff like heavy vehicles such as tanks and bunkers, you now have the opportunity to be able to actually deal with the situation and go after lighter targets, and it matters, which is wonderful. The automatic feature in the destruction of AI vehicles has been disabled. New AI vehicles will appear, ground attackers which spawn for every team and destroy the AI ground vehicles. What is going on? Right. Aerialistic, the fundamentals of aerialistic haven't been changed in like 6 years. This is wonderful that we are getting all of these changes, and I can't wait to give it a go with a lot of vehicles, because for me, personally, after having played aerialistic for 6 or 7 years at this point, I've got to say, it kind of got boring doing the same thing over and over again, just with a slightly different vehicle. These changes get me interested again. These changes make me want to play more aerialistic and see what's going on at the mid-tiers, because I feel like now there's a lot more opportunities for both sides and all types of vehicles to be effective in this game mode, instead of specific ones, such as air superiority fighters, heavy bombers, and very specific attackers. All ground vehicle distribution has been improved. Vehicles now appear all along the 10-kilometer front line, or split into 3 to 4 zones along the front line. Previously, AI vehicles were grouped in a single 2 to 4 kilometer zone, or the distance between groups of vehicles was too long. So now everything is evenly spaced, which is great. It means that, you can't just clump up stuff and bomb it all really easily. They've also changed and fixed a bunch of missions for ground battles, so Alaska, a bug where the respawn zone on the southern team appeared with one icon, has been fixed. Fair enough. Karelia, the unnecessary respawn zones have been removed from the mission briefing. The position of the respawn points, which was located in front of the tree, has been fixed. Well, that's lovely. You could ultimately fix Karelia by just removing it from the game, instead of doing these small fixes. It seems like Karelia has been changed so much, and it is still a dumpster fire. So I would just, leave it over there. Put it to pasture with the shotgun in hand. We have Fulda. The size of the battle zone has been fixed in the mission briefing for RB. Good. Poland. The positions of the capture points and respawn points have been fixed in the mission briefing. So basically, they've fixed the maps in the loading screen. Vietnam. The respawn points have been moved closer to the capture points in the RB and SB. Okay. I feel like this is a positive change, because especially on second and third spawn, you end up getting stuck in areas where you can't actually get to, those points, and there are so many corners that you have to check before you get to the capture points again, and there's always going to be one person who slips through the lines. So putting the capture zones closer putting the spawn points closer to the capture zones mean that you'll get to the fight quicker, but also it means that you can still take up those defensive positions. It doesn't negate them or get rid of them. The fields of Poland, respawn points have been moved closer to the capture points in RB and SB. Okay, so that negates the driving at the start. Good. Fields of Poland, the position of the capture points in the mission briefing has been fixed, and then changes and fixes to naval battles. Fuego Islands, the position of the respawn zone protection has been fixed. Okay, so not too many differences for the naval stuff. Now, as you can see, there are a ton of changes for vehicle models when it comes to aircraft, ground, and naval, and my god, it just shows you how... One thing I do want to point out, right, when it comes to all of these things, because I'm not going to go through these all, because there are an absolute metric ton of them, and if I'm honest with you, a lot of them don't really make too much of a difference, right? Like, some of them make a decent difference, right? The BMP3, the ATGM reload time has been reduced from 2 to 3 rounds per minute, okay? That's a pretty big change for the BMP3. But the T10M, its fire rate going from 3.9 to 4 shots per minute, that is obviously not a big change, so I'm not going to be having a look at it. But what I just want to say is, when people bring up the fact that Gaijin don't fix anything, Gaijin needs to do dedicated bug fix patches, these are generally individuals who do not read the update notes, they do not read the changelog notes, and they don't have a look through them. Because if they did, they would realize they're already doing what they're asking for. Right here. These are all of those bug fixes or bug changes that people ask for. But for some reason, they're never acknowledged. And that's why I kind of like doing these videos, to acknowledge them. But anyway, let's get into it. So, for ground vehicles, aerial weapon detection and locking has been implemented for missile SPAAs. These vehicles are now able to lock on rockets, missiles, and bombs. The radar also displays a player's own missiles. All laser rangefinder distance has been increased to 9999 meters. So now you'll be able to laser rangefind everything, and at the same time, your radar will be able to lock onto anything, which is either going to be good or it's going to be incredibly frustrating, because there'll be times where you want to lock onto a target and instead you lock onto the missile that the target has fired. So we'll have to see how it works. As a person who has been playing a lot of the AMX-30 DCA recently, that radar is wacky and it loves changing target a lot, so I'm really hoping that, obviously some of the other, radars aren't as bad, like the Sergeant York is a lot better, the Gepard's one is a lot better, but it's just something to think about, when it comes to it. So yeah, hopefully there won't be too many issues, but I think it'll be fine. The default sight scale distance has been increased for all ground vehicles. The maximum optical sight scale is now 6,000 meters. Yeah, I think this is fine. It just gives more. What's the word? It gives more sight to people, so they can shoot at much higher distances if they want to, instead of having to guess, so I think that's good. They've also added Ostketten tracks, or Eastern tracks as they're known, to a bunch of German vehicles, and what it does is it increases your mobility and insignificantly increases durability in damage. So basically it makes you turn better and makes it so you should be able to deal with stuff like mud in better conditions, and they added them to a lot of rank 3 vehicles for the Germans, so if you have spaded vehicles or used to have spaded vehicles, you'll now have to get them spaded once again. They've done a bunch of different bug changes to a bunch of different vehicles, and you can have a look at them if you want to. One of the large changes for aircraft characteristics is that they added the RB-24Js to the J-35D, so that should be a lot better at its general use. I'd just like to thank Ambrosius McClellan, B. Young, Blackie, Chris Giltnane, Conte Baraka, Daniel Stanton, Elove Goat, Jay Wilt, Martinez, Trigger Hippie, Eugens Terry, and also Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.